in the past, you say if there's an area of the map to try and target, could be that mid lane with Cryin. So if Beishang's on something aggressive next to an Irelia too, that's where I want to see them attack early.
Yeah, it's been the one big adaptation coming out from WE, mid-jungle being the big strength of theirs. RNG showing some adaptation as well, picking up the Ziggs for themselves. I just love this champion because it sets up so well for playing around topside, all the priority that it gives you being able to play by itself. And of course, like Raz was just hitting on, Xiaohu on the Viego, an absolute monster.
My gosh, so quick. The Irelia, the inside of the Leona, all locked in. We talked about seeing, so many power picks going through. I will say, if Shanks does pick up the Irelia, I'll be a little bit surprised. Breathe has played this before, is something within his wheelhouse, and we know how much they love to play around topside.
Yeah, and I think it just fits so well, right? Definitely can go up towards that top side, a flex pick for the side of WE. I'm a bit surprised that RNG are just going to answer here with the Galio pick. I thought the VODS would be a bit higher priority for the side of RNG with how many games that Gala's had on it. 20 games so far in this split, but RNG at least getting Cryin on something comfortable or showing that it's going to be all about Xiaohu once again.
Yeah, exactly, right? Now you've got double AP threat. Xiaohu likely going to go something AD up on the top side of the map, try and make sure they figure out exactly where that Irelia is going to be going and get a strong counter pick up against that. I do like seeing the Vayne banned away. That's been a pick that's worked well into the Ziggs here in the LPL. Other favorites, of course, of Elk, you always have to consider the Ezreal as a possibility whenever the man loads onto the Rift.
That's the thing, right? That's what I would expect them to go towards, to try and farm it out safely in that bottom side, so I'd love to see RNG ban that one out. Seems like WE are expecting the jungle Viego to come out for the side of Wei. Hasn't played it just yet, but that obviously has been the flavor of the month ever since those lane nerfs to the Viego did come through. So I'm interested to see if RNG do go that route with some of these top lane bans coming out, or if they just want to opt into pulling out something like a Lee Sin and Olaf, a Volibear, something more of, this early aggressive jungler.
Yeah, and this is where I start to feel like this Irelia is going towards that top side, because you've seen the Set ban, the Camille ban. They are looking to try and pigeonhole Xiaohu away from that, because we know how powerful he can be.
Exactly, and you also definitely need some magic damage source here for Team WE, so they've got to figure out where they're going to get that if Breathe has a top laner. And that's maybe why you see something like a Cannon ban too, to try and make that Irelia go up towards the top side of the map if Xiaohu wants to get a matchup like that. I'm liking what I'm seeing from RNG already. I mean, just look at these circles they've got here to work with. That's a lot of setup
diagram
for the Ziggs.
Yeah, and it's just perfect. The Rell coming out against such a short-range composition. I love that you're hitting on the AP coming out, Ender, because we wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like a Syndra come out for Shanks either. It would be a super easy laning phase for him up against the Galio in the mid lane. You've already kind of pigeonholed yourself into a very early game-oriented composition. And the guys are hitting on this on the desk. This has also been a go-to pick for Shanks. Still gives him that early lane prio, but a ton of pressure on the map.
And we've seen it so recently start to develop more, even just in yesterday's series. Global champions in the mid lane is all the rage, especially when it comes to swinging those side lane matchups. And Xiaohu coming out here with the Wukong now, that's definitely a matchup that can get spicy with jungle mid-intervention.
I've seen so much engage from both of these sides. Wukong, Viego, Galio, with the Ziggs just lobbing in bombs on the backside. Hell, I didn't even talk about the Rell with the Magnet Storm. And on the other end, you've got Irelia, Xin, Zhao, Leona, things that want to be in your face, want to get onto that backside. I'm expecting team fights, Lyric.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Team fights, a ton of fighting, but it's going to be the question of how we get there. I think WE going to play out a lot more through tempo, a lot more of having push, having these aggressive early laners like Kalista and Ryze. To where for RNG, I think they can take it a bit slower, wait for those level 6s to come up, and it's about like these big wombo combos, the heroic entrance, the bomb from Ziggs, and then just setting everything up.
Yeah, definitely like tracking the Xin Zhao in the early game too, making sure you're not falling victim to that. I did just have a quick look. I don't believe Xiaohu has played the Wukong at all this year, so super fun to see him bringing that one out here in game one to try and qualify for Worlds.
It's a big moment. This is for RNG. Like we said, it was an upset that they lost in the playoffs. They should have been in our double elimination. Hell, people were saying it could have been a rematch of them versus FBX in the finals that happened yesterday. Now they find themselves looking for that third spot. You're still hunting and fighting for Worlds. It is still a massive moment here. We know how much Xiaohu can do once he's set off.
Yeah, I mean, this was the year of Xiaohu, right? Switches over to the top lane, having such a standout performance where pretty much everyone doubted him, picks up another LPL title, having him second in the whole league, only behind Clearlove, then getting another MSI championship as well. The only player to do it from 2 roles. And like the analyst said, right, feels like RNG are the heavy favorites today, but the favorites haven't had the best luck so far.
No, they certainly have not. It's been a little bit of a curse here in the playoffs. It was Team WE that upset so many favorites in their miracle run through playoffs, ended up falling short at the final hurdle. But here today, they have a chance to once again qualify here for Worlds, and it's against the MSI champions, no less.
And that's the big thing. The Miracle Runs may have died for the LPL Championship, but they have not died for your World's hopes. And they talked about it on the desk as well. This is such a young WE roster, oldest player, 20 years old. And this is where you start to come in and say, how far can they go? How high is their ceiling?
I mean, we were just watching clips of the final that these teams played when Team WE qualified for MSI back in 2017. And you had names like Uzi versus Mystic down on the bot side. Like all these legends, Team WE and RNG have gone through so many shifts over the years that it is now rebranded. I mean, not rebranded, but if you look at the players, completely new coming in here.
Yeah, right. The only players that fans might even recognize is players like Xiaohu and players like Ming coming back time and time again for multiple titles so far. On the side of WE, pretty much completely new squad from what people would expect. They built up around this core of missing Elk and Beishang and felt like Shanks and Breathe really cemented themselves. Really interested going into game, though, seeing the runes. We see, once again, a Galio going towards that Predator, so showing he does want to be a lot more active on the map. It isn't going to be about this isolated laning phase, which is what you would expect. Ryze definitely will have pressure in the trades in that 1v1.
Yeah, and we're looking at the early game now. We're straight in. We're obviously going to see the teams trying to see what kind of advantages they can get. I'll go to you, Lurk, straight away. Where are you expecting to see them to get their advantages? Are we seeing a lot more trading, or is it going to be big team fights like we expected?
I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of early game aggression coming out from the side of WE. You have a really strong mid-jungle setup coming out from the root with the Ryze, and then Zhao up, turning that into a gank. Even bot lane can be extremely aggressive. Once you hit the level 6 mark, right, Kalista ultimate, Leona having all that lockdown. For the side of RNG, I think it is way more top-side oriented with that Ziggs that we hit on.
Yeah, and sort of looking at like some summoner spell choices too. Like Gala's going to be rocking TP, so that's 3 TPs over on the side of RNG. Ming has the exhaust, of course, in a matchup like this. You're definitely worried about getting jumped on your backline, of course, feeling the punishment. And Beishang started topside, is pathing down towards that bottom lane, so it's possible we see some pressure come through this lane trying to punish the lack of a combat summoner spell in the bottom lane, but more than likely, it's also just playing about the scuttle crabs, right? You know you're going to have bot lane prio with a Kalista lane. Top lane Xiaohu waited on that counter pick. You know, he wanted to play against the Irelia. That's why they're banning away the cannon. So he feels very comfortable pathing towards the bot side where top lane's going to have pressure for Xiaohu.
And just as you said, Xiaohu, fun fact, this is his career first. First time he has ever played the Wukong competitively, regardless of what year, regardless of what position. So curious to see how his debut on the Monkey King ends up going. Yeah,
again, we saw him kind of struggle to pick up top laners at first, but we're looking at what looks like could be a bot lane dive coming out from Beishang.
This is really, really good from them. They're level 3 on the bot side. Beishang going to be able to come in. They're going to commit the TP as well. That's going to be the Ryze coming on. That's this. We're going in straight away. First blood gets locked and loaded. Can they get a second? I don't believe they can. Never mind. They're going to go too far down. Beishang gets taken, and they're going to try and re-aggro. The second TP going to be committed. It's actually going to be Gala coming back into the lane. Ends up being a 1-for-1.
Yeah, it's Gala just straight up returning right there, and he is denied some minions under the tower. Because he has TP, though, it's not the end of the world for him. Ming was also able to secure double buffs, but at the end of the day, when the dust does settle, it's Beishang getting a quick reset, going back to base, and it's a first blood over that Kalista, so a win for WE to start it off.
Yeah, WE coming out ahead. I do want to say, it did surprise me how quickly Cryin was able to react with his own TP, and that's what feels like salvage to play a little bit on the side of RNG, is able to come in, does get the taunt down onto the Zhao, and they're able to get one in return.
Yeah, so it looks like in the mid lane, Shanks had actually taken a quick reset after that third wave and was already walking back to lane, whereas Cryin hadn't actually been able to get back to base. Now, of course, he does go for the early Predator boots like we saw Doonby do just yesterday in our finals, so it doesn't feel like... I think Shanks actually had to end up resetting again, so he's had to go back to base twice, which is a little bit unfortunate for him. But all in all, a very good job from Cryin to respond. CS has equalized, so again, Gala wasn't really denied much of anything underneath the tower and is going to get a quick reset off here.
Yeah, and the curious thing to me, right, is that we're already seeing teams start to transition away from that bot lane play, making their way up towards topside, missing, coming down, and getting some vision for his top laner. I don't think RNG can do too much, because talking about resets, we still haven't seen Xiaohu go for a reset just yet. Breathe, of course, picking up a longsword and some cloth armor, so still doing fine in that laning phase. About actually not even 10 CS down once we come back to the wave, is going to be able to pick this all up for free. And with no Herald up anytime soon, seems like we are still maybe looking at potentially a dragon, but not too much going on just yet.
Check out this invade from Wei and Ming, though, on the bot side jungle. They put so many wards down there. Ward on Raptor Camp, 2 control wards trying to catch. Missing walk back towards that bot lane. Missing did take the long way around, so they're going to end up going into this Drake pit. And it's not even like Team WE know that this is going on, even though they have that vision with the Scuttle Crab, because it was a blast cone over the wall. It's going to be a quick sneak here for RNG.
And that's the big thing. With RNG getting that control control, getting that vision down. They know that Beishang's on the bot side of the map, so they can confidently go for this dragon, pick themselves up their first objective. We do see now Beishang going in onto Cryin. The taunt does land, but the Wukong has already made the roam. Flash has to be committed, but here comes Wei back off of the dragon take, going straight down. Beishang has died for the second time.
And just really nice play coming out from RNG. They might even be able to continue at least getting Shakes' flash, but Xiaohu, realizing that Breathe was still catching that big wave under turret, gives him a window to make his way down towards the mid lane. Wei also extremely close by from the fact that he just picked up that dragon and set up another kill for RNG.
It's just a really good roam timing there from Xiaohu, expecting a play around the middle lane. So a big punish comes through from RNG. Excellently done by them. And it's Beishang thinking it's a quick 2v1, but like you're saying, so fast on the reaction speed from RNG to get around this mid lane. They were already trying to set up a 3 versus 1, realized, hey, a jungler's here too. We take that easy.
Absolutely, and I think this is something they mentioned on the deaths. Dom made a big point, but I'm going to stop myself very quickly there. Rell getting jumped on, he almost gets taken down. They're going to try and turn this one back onto Missing, but Missing, he's a pretty tanky boy. There's the Galio ultimate to try and turn this one around. Call an ambulance, but not for me. RNG get themselves a kill on the bot side.
And we didn't even get to see how that one all started. It looked like Elk was going to be the one to go down, but with Ming getting so low, WE think they can turn it, but Cryin has that global. So once again, RNG just doing such a good job of playing the map.
It's all about taking your priority and using it to help out another lane, right? Xiaohu winning top, roams mid, then Cryine's like, sweet, we got a kill. Shanks just went back to base. My global is going to reach that bottom lane. It's a beautiful example of give and take right there. And with the quick little replay, it's a great bump back with the satchel charge by Gala to set up this entire play. Even then, though, the trade back did come in pretty nicely with a bunch of damage, but when you have a third player, it's a little bit unfair.
I do want to say that's one of the reasons why, you know, again, Gala, great job on the Ziggs, but I just love the Rell in this composition. Rell, I feel like maybe not the best laning matchups, but you do so well against compositions that just want to run at you like what W has. Everything short range. It sets up for amazing, 4-5-man Magnet Storm to where then you can combo in something like a taunt or the Ziggs ultimate to set up for resets from Viego, and all just chains together so perfectly.
And back to my original point before that skirmish ended up happening, it's the pace of RNG. It's how quick they're finding these advantages, how quickly they're turning things around, and WE look a little bit out of sorts with that at the moment.
I mean, right now, I think the itemization is telling us a little bit there, too, with the Merc Treads immediately rushed into for Cryin. Of course, going to be effective in the lane up against the Ryze, but also when it just comes to map mobility with Predator, with an ultimate, with a TP coming up pretty soon for Cryin, he is in an excellent position here to keep assisting the rest of the map. Now, though, we're past the 8-minute mark. Herald is on the map, so bot lane is a 1v1. It's time to scrap around the Herald.
And that's the big thing now. The big objective here with the Dragon gone down already. WE do not want to give this one up. They're on the objective first. They've got some decent pink wards, but that Scuttle Vision is keeping RNG in the know. They know exactly where most of these people are, and here we go, the turn. Zenith goes down, but there is the engage with the Rell. They're trying to go in, but the Mega Inferno Bomb all the way downtown. That's 3 points and a switch. They trade 1 for 1. You can see Breed flashing over to the blue buff to keep himself alive. Great satchel charge into the Cyclone, but a Fate's Call will keep them alive. It's a 1 for 1, and the Rift Herald did not go down.
I just love the trust coming out from RNG. It looked pretty dire for me in their situation. No heroic entrance out from Cryin. Xiaohu actually cut off from the rest of the team. We also saw the power of Ziggs there because RNG realized, hey, WE engage on us, but doesn't matter that Ziggs is not here, can still throw damage across the map to set up for that first kill.
Yeah, he has that ultimate to sort of push Team WE back up the river at the same time Xiaohu's walking down from the top side, so was able to get that flank off, and, well, Breathe does manage to escape just barely and keep it an even trade, but we are straight back into the thick of things. Everyone's here for a round 2.
Here we go, round 2. Zenith lands. That's going to see Wade trying to get himself back to safety. We go in with the Rell. They're jumping back in. It's actually going to be Kalista and Beishang and Missing all dead. And they have nowhere else to go. They have to use the Rell more defensively. It just looks so good, but Breathe and the rest of WE just weren't with them.
I mean, Shanks and Breathe were just not in a position to do any damage at all. Team WE just sort of walked in, probably saying to themselves, RNG is a team that relies a ton on their ultimates in these fights. Let's go for it after they just used all of them in the last one, but Elk just gets caught up in a million different CCs, and there's no other damage besides him.
Yeah, it seems like they were underestimating that a little bit, like you were saying. All members not even there. I like that RNG even turned this into some chip damage on a mid lane turret, getting some more plate gold in their favor. And now this Galio, 3-1-4, getting a bunch of money to himself, going to be massive. And that's so crucial for RNG, in my opinion, when again, Cryin's been the most criticized player on this roster. A lot of people thought of him as the only weak link, but coming in here strong, it has looked pretty good. But it's like we were saying, right? You see 4 members of WE here, RNG collapses with numbers advantage.
And the power of the Rell, just like you were talking about there earlier. How does this Kalista play into a team fight when there's a Rell coming at you one direction, a Wukong TP another? If Elk is committed and the rest of the team is not, team fighting nearly impossible for Team WE.
And that's the big thing as well. Not only the Rell, but you're also looking at it from a point of view of the Ziggs. You drop down that minefield, you can't really walk forward. It's very difficult for you to find that advantageous fight. Speaking of another fight, it's all go, go, go. We got to see Ming flashing in. There's the Mega Inferno bomb down. And the Galio Hero's entrance. That's going to be a kill onto Shanks. Missing needs to get himself backed away as Beishang flashes back towards his bot side. In the top lane, the Dragon will be taken by RNG, and Xiaohu will keep himself safe.
I mean, Team WE just keep running headfirst into these objectives, but the fights are not working out at all. RNG's combination there with the Rell and the Galio, the setup for the rest of the team is just too good, and I'm a little bit confused as to why they keep sending it forward here.
Yeah, it's like, I can kind of understand what they're thinking, right? They have tempo advantage on the map because they died, they get on the map first, RNG still needs to reset, but if you can't take the fight when they don't have all their wobble combo ultimates available, I don't know what makes you think you're going to be able to take it now. And now RNG 2 Drakes up, 3K gold advantage, 8-2 at only 11 minutes.
And that's the big thing you're looking at, is that, yes, we said from Team WE's team comp side, they want to run at you. They want to try and get those fights constantly, but if you're constantly falling behind, that becomes ever more difficult the longer the game goes on.
And you know, even back in draft, we said that Team WE have a lot of tools to like play the early game, from the Zhao, right? The Kalista Leona lane, so they could just be telling themselves like, we need to win now or it's going to be too late for us eventually, and that's why they continue to send it. But I do feel like maybe they need to course correct a little bit, try to play side lanes a little bit more, try to play maybe cross-mapping instead of just going for these objectives, because as they continue to run to these objectives, they lose fights, they lose objectives, and they're not gaining anything on the map, so it's going to start spiraling more and more if they don't try to stem the bleeding here.
That's the big thing, right? Because if W can just like take a breather, be like, okay, we're gonna go for a cross-map play, try and open up one of these side lanes. Sure, RNG have globals and they can like look to make these side lane picks, but both Ryze and Irelia will feel comfortable pushing in their side lane opponents, look to pull RNG across the map so they can't make these big 4 or 5 man plays like we've been seeing continuously.
And that's the big thing. You look at the Irelia, look at the Ryze, you get 2 items on those. They will not be able to be dealt with one person. It will take multiple members from RNG to then stack onto a side, and that's where WE may find their advantages. But for RNG, they're just fully committing to everything, and I don't see why they shouldn't be. You have so much engaged, so many AoE ultimates. We talked about the Venn diagrams, but this is just ridiculous how well it's working out.
I also just like RNG's comp holistically, like in terms of how we're setting all this up, right? Because sure, WE later on will be able to win out in those individual 1v1s, but RNG will always have control of mid push. You know, once we get to having Ziggs in that mid lane, they'll be able to walk from mid to river. They can even accept just giving up some waves on sides with Cryin to look to either force, 4v3 or make those picks off on the individual man like Breathe, and it feels like their comp is just very versatile.
Yeah, it is worth pointing out, though, that for Team WE, like Breathe has had a pretty successful early game, 15, 20 CS up. There's another wave pushing in. These going to crash, and they invested in that first pick, Irelia, for Breathe, so very important that do work out for him and the rest of the team. Still, though, couple CS, couple waves here or there is not going to bring Team WE back into the game, so they now need to figure out a way, I feel like, to sort of play around this lane that has been successful early on for Team WE.
It's really funny, too, because all split long, we called Breathe and Beishang like the best friends. Because it wasn't the same as RNG, where it was topside oriented, but it wasn't really about missing getting involved or Shanks. It was all about just the top jungle 2v2. And holistically throughout playoffs, we've seen WE not really able to piece that together. It's been a lot more about the mid jungle 2v2 or about the bottom lane getting involved. And here, once again, this Irelia against the Wukong, sure, you found the solo advantage, but they haven't really been able to push Breed's advantage forward.
All right, let's take a little bit of stock. A lot of fighting, a lot of action happening in the first 50 minutes of the game as we are just underneath it. 8-2 in kills, 2 dragons for RNG, so they're already stacking towards that objective. And you can see now that everyone's just kind of calming down. There's no big major objective. Everyone's picking up their first items and getting themselves ready for that next big fight.
Yeah, they've all got their items. RNG also looking like they have a level lead in pretty much every role, like both bot lane and mid lane looking good for them.
Oh, Missing is a little bit caught, but he's in his jungle, so they're going to use the Everfrost to try and clone him down. The Call of the Fate, or Fate's Call, is probably wasn't the actual name of it, it's going to be used, but the Realm Orb has been cancelled. You can see now, Wei, it's a bit of a scrappy fight here as they're looking to try and kill off Ming. The Mega Inferno Bomb comes down, hits absolutely nothing. Missing goes golden to keep himself alive. Breathe is here and running straight forward, misses the Vanguard's edge as Ming flashes away from it. Now Beishang trying to find himself all alone. Shanks got out, but Beishang has to pay for the sins of his mid laner.
The fight's just completely all over the place. Team WE's thought just for a second they had enough to be able to jump in there and get a kill and get out, but the end of it all, RNG were fighting on two fronts, and the top side was looking so good for them.
That's the thing, right, is we saw that WE's position was so scattered. At first, I thought, okay, this isn't a bait, but it's kind of a bait by Missing because they had TP advantage. Irelia was able to come down. Xiaohu had to run across the whole map, but we see here Wei doing a nice job of stopping Shanks from getting involved, and then they're able to separate him from the rest of the team while he's able to make his way down, and amazing flash by Ming as well to be able to get out, and then RNG just able to win out on the map again.
Yeah, a big moment there as well. You see, again, similar, Missing thinking they had the damage, they have the survivability tools to re-engage on that, and they end up losing a lot in that bot side. We never look at the replay here, and it is Missing sort of caught out, but he's very tanky at this stage.
Yeah, honestly, I was surprised to see Ming like committing in here, even with the Fate's Call coming through. The Ryze Realm Warp did end up getting canceled on the top side, and I actually think it's more important that we talk about the state of the game currently, because the Rift Shield, I believe, is being traded for the Dragon, and this is the cross-map play that I was trying to ask Team WE to go for, and I feel like getting some gold, even giving up third Drake just to get some guaranteed gold for your team is worth it.
Yeah, it's one of those things, right, where we've seen that they just cannot contest RNG in a straight-up 5v5 right now. Even at this point, it's just coming down to, like, math diff in terms of, like, stats and items and damage that you're able to put out, and for WE, it's going to be about...
Getting some bad memories.
Playtest team?
Yeah. No, school. Math and stats, not a good combination.
Wait, yeah, you actually told me the playtest team was great memories. I don't know what I'm talking about, but back on the Rift, right, it's all about getting gold onto Irelia and the Ryze. I feel like that's pretty much what it's all going to be about at this point. Even Kalista feels like she's not going to be able to have a big impact in this game, just because you look at the other side, it's Wukong, it's Galio, it's Rell. You're going to get locked down so easily.
And the big thing as well, you mentioned the stats diff as such. It's even level diffs. You know, there's a level difference only just being equaled out in the mid lane. Now, bot lane is a level difference. Those level 11s are very, very powerful, but now they're looking for another engage here. Wei going to find himself with Beishang and Shanks in this bot or top side. The brush fight has begun. They have to flash away with the Everfrost, and Ming tries to get the Magnet Storm going, but just isn't able to find any purchase. The fights are still happening, but nobody goes down.
Yeah, Team WE, though, losing flashes on both Ryze and Zhao. Here we go.
He's absolutely dead. There's nothing else to really talk about here. I say that, though. L coming in with the clutch play, but maybe has to get himself out with his own flash. There we're going to see the hero's entrance used on the top side. That's a completely different fight. The jungler and the top laner have been traded, but now Cryin is all on his lonesome. He goes golden only for a few seconds. He flashes away. He's not away. He's going to survive. He gets out. This is now going down to the bot side of this fight. As we can see RNG fighting between two towers. Never mind. Back to the top side of this fight, because Ryze has fallen, and now Breathe looks like he might be 1v4. These health bars are low. WE want to try and help him, but there's nothing he can do. There's nowhere he can go, and they all fall.
What an absolute mess. These are the... Oh, you would only see these kind of team fights in the LPL where teams are fighting on completely different fronts. It looked like WE almost able to bring it back from the fact that RNG were separated, right? Some members in top, some members in the enemy jungle. RNG, though, just stick to their guns, play it out, and they're going to at least be able to get a top turret off of this one.
You know, I respect it. It was a gentleman's agreement just to have 3 or 4 different duels going on at the same time, 1v1s, 2v2s, but it's RNG with the math diff coming in and coming out on top.
I'll tell you both right now, we're going to have to break that down in a minute. So,
Please, no.
Please.
So I'm just
That's
preparing
what the analyst desk is for.
Yeah, we'll send that to Dom and Raz as such. But big moments here. And like you said, it was 2 skirmishes that started off with Missing getting caught, Lyra.
Yeah, I feel like the big thing, right, is that RNG just have control of waves. They push in mid, they have push in top. They look for the pick. We see here, WE actually all inning on the top side onto Xiaohu, who does force Cryin to come through, but it's too late. multiple members already low. Beishang does go down on the opposite side. And again, just a bunch of chaos.
Now
I
you
can't
got
go with
this
this.
easy.
Ender, it's all you, my dude.
I was going to say, like, obviously here, both teams are just using their globals to move like 4 inches into the top lane and get the job done, ignoring the tower, of course. And then, yeah, I mean, it's just a complete mess, but ultimately it's Ming and Wei that were able to force away those players on the bot side, completely isolate, breathe towards the top lane.
And we're seeing the power of this Galio into this Ryze as well. You realm warp in, yes, but if you're close enough to an allied champion of the enemy team, then they can just follow instantly on top of that, and you're already grouped up for that CC. So we come back into the game, minute 20 until that Dragon Soul is available for RNG, an Infernal Soul no less, of course there would be in this particular game. And it's 12-3 in kills. It is a 5,000 gold lead. RNG have the tools. WE are kind of running out of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking real rough for them, and you have like double items coming through for Gala and Cryin, 10 stacks on the Dark Seals. Let's make those measures, guys. Come on. I feel like there's going to be a lot more killing in this game, but all RNG really have to do is fully control, make sure they don't give up mid-prio, hold on to their tower, get some wards down inside the enemy jungle, because it's very hard for Team WE to step forward into the Ziggs. The control around these choke points to get to the Dragon Pit is just so oppressive from RNG.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, right? WE's comp is going to have such a hard time face checking. Even with the Fate's Call, if Missing walks in, gets locked down by the Galio, I feel like RNG do have a lot of bursts, maybe even just able to take him away outright. And even just blowing some of those tools that WE would have, it would make it impossible for WE to be able to walk in and contest Dragon. So RNG doing a great job of controlling the map, not only pushing in mid, but look at both side lanes. Both of them are pushed in as well.
And also keep in mind where Cryin or Xiaohu can come from. Like the flanks from RNG, when you have vision control in the enemy jungle, that's all you're going to be looking for. Right now, they are rather grouped up, and there have been some wards Team WE have placed inside their own, but it's a fight over midway first. RNG making sure they do all their homework before coming in for the final exam around this Drake.
Stats on the exam? Can't remember anymore. It's coming back.
You know, this is a history lesson. We've seen it before. This is a cross map, though. I love this from Team WE, just porting straight into the Baron Pit, and RNG are going to have to react.
The big thing is, though, they don't have everybody here, so they can't really burn it down that quickly, and now they're going to have to try and fight this one down. Dragon Soul has been picked up by RNG at 21 minutes 50. That Missing is dead. Nothing else to say about that. There was just, he was there and he wasn't. Now RNG trying to put in forward, trying to get more kills, but they've got no more else to go for. They can turn for the big purple worm.
Yeah, and you know, to WE's side, right? We've already been hitting on it. They're so far behind in terms of items, in terms of map control. It really felt like this was the only play they could make. Had they walked into the Dragon Pit, it would have just been certain doom. They try to go for the clever play. RNG able to answer, though.
Here we go, though. They're going to try and contest this one. This Baron is taken very low, 3,000 HP. You've got Breathe and Beishang trying to look to get something, but Beishang said there's no steal available to you guys. And with the amount of tank stats they have, with the front line they have on RNG, they can tank that for days. They get themselves the Baron. This is looking very much done and dusted right now.
Yeah, pretty sure RNG are going to be walking away with this one, too. They got the Soul earlier on the play as well. 22 minutes in, 8,000 gold, a Soul, a Baron. It's all coming together for RNG. And you know what, Team WE? I respect it. I respect going into the Baron Pit, going for it all right there, because this game was not a winning one.
That's the thing, right? WE have a never say die attitude. But going back to RNG, this is the RNG that we expected in their playoff series against LNG, not able to show up. We're going to see a replay, guys, but I don't think it matters too much. WE went for the crazy Hail Mary play. Of course, RNG now with Infernal Soul, we're going to win out. But I also want to remind us of stakes of today's match. If you do win this best of 5, you're just at Worlds. You don't need to play again. You are just qualified. The loser, though, it is not done and dusted. They will have to play against the winner of RA and LNG.
Yeah, a lot of opportunities for these two teams. They come in as the two higher seeds, of course. You don't want to lose a game like this. I don't think you want to lose a series. You want to try and get your Worlds ticket as soon as possible. Those tickets go very, very fast. Only a limited number as well. So WE, I think there's a couple of things they can learn from this series, but at the end of the day, they just had to execute on a comp that just fell apart so quickly.
Yeah, it was like the early fights around Herald, especially like the second fight they tried to force when the rest of the team wasn't really there to try and play around it. They just got punished so much, and then from there, RNG just walked into every single fight with 5 players and were an unstoppable killing machine. breathe right now, just going to push down top lane, get whatever scraps he can on the top side of the map, but RNG are looking to break into the base here with the last minute and a half of Baron.
Yeah, and RNG just doing such a good job playing out through 2 lanes. They know Gala is just fine. Cryin can always follow up with the heroic entrance. Now with the wave here, with having a Ziggs, taking this space is going to be so easy for the side of RNG. WE are going to have to look for another massive gamble, just kind of throw themselves into RNG when maybe one member's pushing off to another side, but Ming just goes in.
They're just going to go in, Magnet Storm into the hero's entrance. There's the Ryze dead. A lot of your consistent DPS is gone. They're trying to see if they can get any more double kill for Gala as they push straight in on top of the turret. They do not care about your base's defenses, and Elk is left all alone. RNG take 4 kills. They'll take another inhibitor. They're looking to try to end the game.
Such a decisive game 1 from RNG. They came in, fought around every single objective. I don't think they lost a team fight this entire game from start to finish clean from RNG.
And this was the RNG that we expected to see, Penguin, coming out with such a strong performance, playing the map, being the smarter team, but also being so great in those team fights.
Decisive, definitive, back to going to Worlds. RNG take a 1-0 in this matchup. And WE, we have a lot of questions, though, because that was questionable from our end.
Questions leading to questionable things. Yes, that does make sense. No, honestly, I feel like a Team WE are going to have some things they're going to want back in the draft. You know, perhaps a mid lane they can play a little bit more aggressively around, right? Like, we didn't see a lot of early action in this game apart from the bot lane dive.
We did talk about the Syndra.
Exactly, we did talk about the Syndra with Cryin on the Galio, a global champion. It really stopped them from completely blowing up that bottom lane. So there are some elements that I think they're going to try to look into in Game 2.
I think even just stylistically, right? We've seen WE play a lot around of like these like range compositions, like Ezreal being the most played champion for this team by far, things like the Jace able to come out in top side. Like, there were a lot of different ways that WE did about playing with these like poke and siege compositions that might be more in their wheelhouse than these like early game scrappy, we have to fight you comps.
And that's the big thing. You were going with an early game scrappy comp against a very clearly team fighting composition. And then once you fall behind that, it's very difficult to bring yourself back into it, because how you bring yourself back in is fighting and team fighting. And
they just had more globals as well.
Exactly.
You're playing this comp that's like split up what RNG are doing, but RNG have so many globals they can always answer what you're doing.
Yeah, it was like that first Rift Herald fight. It was Elk that left bot lane before Gala, but it's still Gala that just drops a big old bomb and is there for the team, and that's how they got the ball rolling.
I think it was a really big, definitive, and kind of standout performance there as well from Cryin. I think Cryin, again, someone we've given a lot of criticism throughout the split, but is really kind of finding his own and really does look his best when he's on these facilitating champions.
Yeah, and it just shows he fits the system, right? Anytime you have a team that typically plays so heavily around one side like RNG does, you're gonna need some kind of massive role player who is willing to take nothing, doesn't even get scraps, right? He's kind of like how Flandre was, all split log, just your team doesn't even know you exist. But this guy moving around so much on the map, again, his ultimates felt so crucial. Even his teleport early on that we hit on with the bot lane dive, the fact that the enemy team is like making this aggressive play and he pretty much TP'd the exact same time as the Ryze just blows my mind and shows like a very intelligent player.
Yeah, all around, it looked so good from both Cryin and the rest of the team. So I once again sort of look towards Team W and I'm like, I want to see what makes them good. You know, I don't want to see them walk into RNG and just like go for this early game comp like you were talking about. I do think that if they can try to get Cryin out of that comfort zone a little bit more, that will unlock a lot of those things too. So that's what I'm eyeing going into Game 2.
I also think Beishang needs a slightly better performance. I think he was like 0-7 by the end of that. So not having a great game on the Jin Zhao. We'll see if they do change anything up. We're going to send it to a quick break.